Hey, this your girl Ashley. I'm back with another video, and this is Women on Death Row. So, how I always felt about women on death row is if you're a woman and you're on death row, 9 times out of 10, you really did that. Because you know how hard it is for them to put a woman on death row? Like, let's think about it. They really don't put women on death row like that. And I've heard about it, 10 years ago, where this lady planned out a whole murder and was sending letters. It was bananas. Okay, so, and then they ended up giving her the death sentence. But really, I rarely hear a woman going to death row, and that's crazy to me, because I would think it would just, I thought the numbers would be just a little bit less, but it's even less than that. Okay, so according to wherever, they said there is no women on death row scheduled for execution in the United States as late as 2024, though there were 42 women on death row in total as of 2024. The most recent execution of a woman was Lisa Montgomery in 2021, the first woman to be executed on a federal death row in nearly 70 years. 70 years? As of mid-2025, though, the number of women on death row in the United States is small, with figures varying slightly by source, but generally ranging from 45 to 50 individuals. That is nothing compared to how many men are on death row, or just people on death row in general. This small population represents the fraction of the total death row population, and their case often involves issues of trauma, violence, and a racial disparity. So pretty much kind of like, they're really softer on women when it comes to crimes a lot of the time. So they, but Eileen, I really think it was in between. I thought she was halfway crazy, but I believe some of the things that she was trying to say. But she probably was schizophrenic. Montgomery, then aged 36, strangled Stinnett to death and cut her unborn child from her womb. Her motives was to produce a baby, as she had faking a pregnancy. Montgomery was arrested in Kansas the next day and was charged with kidnapping resulting in death, a federal crime due to the interest nature of the offense. And the baby, who had survived, and then she did this, she killed the lady during the C-section. So when they got the baby from, how she was kidnapped or whatever, the baby was fine and was safely removed by authorities and returned to the father. Montgomery was tried and found guilty in 2007. She was executed by lethal injection shortly after midnight on January the 13th, 2021, having exhausted the appeals process. Montgomery became the first female federal inmate since 1953 to be executed by the United States federal government, and the fourth overall. At the time of her execution, she was the only female on death row, which says a lot about just women and crimes in general. And the next person that was executed was Judy. She was an American serial killer who was executed in Florida for the 1971 murder of her first husband, James Goodyear. She was also convicted of a 1980 murder of her son, Michael, and the 1983 attempted murder of her boyfriend, John Gentry. On August the 31st, 1984, Judy was indicted for first-degree murder for the September the 16th, 1997 death by suspected arson poisoning of her husband, James Goodyear. No toxicologist was performed at the time, because back then they really didn't think that people was poisoning people. So that was a good time to go poison somebody, because they wasn't even looking to see if somebody poisoned you, because they didn't think nobody would poison you. If that makes any sense. But yeah, she was executed for those crimes. I thought that that was insane, because you sat up here, you start poisoning people. Like, really? Like, your own husband, your own son, your new boyfriend. So it's insane. You know, she tried with the new boyfriend. He survived. He was like, I'm telling this story. She tried to kill me. She tried to kill me. But he survived, thank God, you know, to tell the tale and to get her up out of here. And that was, I clicked on that one because that was the only one that I saw on the list of women in death row that was actually like electrocuted. It was on an electric chair. And I thought that was interesting. Everyone else had lethal injections, and she was on that old Sparky. But it's just crazy to me that, you know, yeah, women rarely get put to death. And when they do, of course, they're on there for so long, you know, 20, 30 years. So, of course, nobody is getting really executed right now because, you know, it's not their time. But, yeah, women on death row is really interesting, because you don't really hear about it that much or that often as you might think.